Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Conspiracy Farm, where we don't start the conspiracies, we just add the water. And now, your host of the most state-of-the-art, most informed podcast on the interweb, I present to you Pat Miletich and Jeffrey Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for...
Okie dokie smoky, locked and loaded once again for yet another episode of the Conspiracy Farm, where no, ladies and gentlemen, we don't start the conspiracies, we just add a little bit of water. And, you know, I'm always here as your ever-faithful co-host, Jeffrey Wilson, riding, shotgun with my partner in crime, UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am well, man. I am well. We have a lot to talk about today, don't we?
No, there's nothing to talk about.
It's been quiet.
There's nothing newsworthy.
It's been quiet on the countryside. I'm echoing a little bit.
I can't hear any echo. I don't care.
Pat's had it too, ladies and gentlemen. We're fed up. Man, so where do we start today, champ? I mean, since we had on Michael Cernovich last week, who, if you didn't catch that episode, very, very good episode. He was also recently on 60 Minutes. Kind of broke the bank on that with his 15 million plus views. He's the fellow who broke the story on Susan Rice being one of the sources, or the source at the NSA for some of the disclosures of some of the confidential information on Trump, etc. And since then, man, what happened? So there was a chemical attack, supposedly. Assad, apparently, they're saying, did his own people in with another chemical attack.
Oh, another, a second.
Yet another one. Yeah, there was one in 2013, which, of course, was traced to ISIS. But, of course, this is different. And the response from Trump has caused a bit of consternation, has it not? There's been a lot of supposedly shakeup in the inner circle of the White House. And this move kind of goes against his what he was saying about, not going to start other wars with other countries, etc. I'm sure he was probably dissuaded a little bit by the pictures. Those were very disturbing images of the kids who were involved with that.
Here's the thing. We have to rewind so people understand. Anybody that hasn't listened to our podcast is listening to it for the first time. We've been talking about this type of stuff, and specifically about the first chemical attack we've talked about on previous episodes, where there's actual footage and pictures of al-Nusra terrorists loading chemical weapons onto launchers the day that the first chemical attack happened, right?
Yeah.
So we also have pretty credible people testifying that Hillary Clinton allowed Libya's chemical weapons, some of them, to go from Libya into the hands of al-Nusra terrorists in Syria.
This was a part of the larger Fast and Furious, too, which we've talked about in other episodes. Fast and Furious was not just gun trading with us and Mexico and Central American countries. This was the conduit. That area was the conduit going through Libya in arms into from Libya into Syria and to. I mean, we're not going to pull any punches today, not that we ever do, but these are state-sponsored terrorists, ladies and gentlemen. Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, whatever you want to call them, state-sponsored by the United States, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Qatar, Pakistan. It's on record.
Western Europe.
This is Gladio B, another thing we've talked about many, many times. So straight up, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, if you're getting your information on geopolitics from MSN or the mainstream media, MSM, none of this shit's going to make sense to you. And it's going to sound, obviously, conspiratorial. This is a conspiracy farm. But I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you're being misled. And we're all being misled into another freaking war based off of pure fucking lies.
Yeah. So let's rewind back again to 2013 when John McCain sat down with the Free Syrian Rebels in finger quotations.
Free Syrian Army. Pictures are available.
Syrian Army, as it was reported on NBC and everywhere else. And in that meeting, you can see clearly pictures of a gentleman with the last name Baghdadi, who turns out to be the leader of ISIS. And all these names, as you were just saying, al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda and ISIS and everything.
They're interchangeable.
It's the same fucking people.
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty much the same people. In that meeting, we were arming ISIS and al-Nusra and anybody else you want to call it, Al-Qaeda, in Syria. and Iraq. So it's a foregone conclusion for anybody that's been paying attention. You and I have known about this stuff for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And the rest, what is America watching, dude? What are they?
Well, again, this is something that we talked about. We kicked the episode off with Cernovich. We have to define the language. When I say mainstream media, we're talking about all of them. Fox, CNN, you name it, Al Jazeera. It is called Operation Mockingbird. It goes back 60, 70 years. Our mainstream media is there to control the narrative of whatever situation, global events, etc., and thus controlling our perception of events. And because oftentimes we talk about we don't have the time, we just don't want to do it, we don't want to dig and find out what's really going on. We want to just be led by these individuals, mainstream media, etc., and we're so tied to that narrative that they give us, because if we're wrong on that, what else are we wrong about? And if we're wrong about it, then we might have to do something about it.
Right. Like,
I mean, the Syrian thing, it just is so counterintuitive. Assad was winning.
Stand up and try and stop it, for instance.
Or, do anything,
Like call our congressmen and our senators and raise holy hell.
But, I mean, literally, that's not what's, I mean, Pat, from what happened, I mean, fuck, man. I have kids, too, and so seeing those images is crazy. Even though I've, listened to doctors who say, that wasn't sarin gas. If that was sarin gas, those people going up to those people would be killed, would be dead almost instantly. With no sandals, no gloves, no mask on.
You certainly can't touch them without gloves on. I've talked to several guys, military guys who are well versed in that stuff, and they're like, dude, that's bullshit.
It's saying it's more chlorine based. It appears to be more. It doesn't change the fact that those people died, but at the end of the day, break off a little Latin for everybody. Qui bono? Who benefits? How does Assad benefit from doing that? Not just in 2013, right next to the UN inspectors, but the other day. You know what I mean? And this is the horse shit. And if we could go back to any of the narratives that they spun to get us into war, particularly the Kuwaiti ambassador's daughter, who in the run up to the Desert Storm or Desert Shield or Desert Storm, sorry, basically just sat and lied. The Kuwaiti ambassador's daughter lied about our Iraqi soldiers kicking over incubators and stomping babies. It was a fucking lie, completely fabricated, reinforced by the mainstream media to get us into war. My brother was over in that shit, man. Luckily, he came home. But it's just like, this is what's happening again. And our kids, our loved ones are going to go freaking die, because we're going to get into McMasters here and what he's up to. They're talking about 150,000 troops on the ground by June. And more of our kids are going to go die over complete horseshit. And like my dad started talking about, all the almighty dollar, the oil, whatever agreements that they have, it has nothing to fucking do with terrorism. And that's the guys that they're using to kill a lot of freaking people, man. And it's disgusting.
What quarter of a million people already dead because we armed terrorists in Syria. And I'll just say it. I mean, it was Republicans and Democrats during the Obama administration. Clinton's State Department facilitated all of this stuff. Obama gave the okay, he did, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't have happened. And John McCain went over to facilitate it. So, those three people and the people that assisted them are guilty of not only 250,000 people's blood on their hands, but also 4 to 5 million people who've been displaced out of their nation and have flooded into Europe, Western Europe, and potentially into the United States here. Not that many have made it here yet, but we're going to get into that in our next episode. People in Canada are ready to revolt. I mean, Europe is losing its mind right now.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in our next couple episodes, where I talk to you about it and how, the churches, certain nonprofit organizations, the UN are facilitating, St. Louis is a pretty big hotspot where they're bringing in a lot of individuals from Pakistan. I mean, we're going to get kind of deep into it, but we'll stay focused on this one, man. The inner circle of Trump, man. As we talked about in previous episodes, he kind of encircles himself with Goldman Sachs people, et cetera, et cetera. In the last couple weeks, it's been kind of crazy, man, from Flynn resigning, KT McFarland was kind of booted out, the Deputy National Security Advisor. And this man, I'm sorry?
Bannon.
And that happened just days before the airstrikes. And so I'm hearing Cernovich, you kind of broke the other day, H.R. McMasters, who is now the head of the NSA. This is going to sound crazy, folks, but this falls completely in line of what I'm hearing. Donald Trump is being fed false analysis from H.R. McMasters. He's being manipulated by him and his stepson, Jared Kushner. Now, either that is taking place or Trump was on the take the whole time, right?
No, I don't have proof, but we're talking about Kushner, who's massively wealthy, and they say that his operations were funded by Soros.
And he has such deep ties to China, I found out today through some of his real estate assets in New York. It's kind of interesting, Jared Kushner's background with real estate in New York. But, I mean, can you imagine that, dude? The National Security Advisor cooking the books to give to Donald Trump. And that's supposedly why. I mean, this. If anybody's listened to this show, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I liked his rhetoric on his foreign policy. We don't need to be going around being the world's policeman. So this flies in the face and has a lot of people scratching their heads who were with Donald Trump's foreign policy, and hearing like McMaster, who's really close with apparently John McCain. They go back quite a ways. My point is, he's being surrounded by globalists. He's not going to be able to institute his, America First nationalist agenda because he's being surrounded by people who are just extending Hillary Clinton, basically the globalist agenda, name it. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, just fulfilling that very agenda. Rex Tillerson,
But here's the thing. While you're going a million miles an hour down one road, think back to what we just talked about with Cernovich, where Trump sent out the tweet, Obama spied on me, and came to find out, and even the people with the most faith in Donald Trump were sitting there going, "Oh shit, did he really put his foot in his mouth this time? Is he full of shit?" Right? And it turns out he knew exactly what he was doing, and he flushed the cockroaches out with that tweet, and eventually Susan Rice was exposed, and other people are being exposed now. You had a Democrat, Nunes, come out and admit that, yeah, he was spied on. Nunes turned on his own camp because I think he probably was thinking, boy, I'm a chair on this intel committee, and I know this stuff. Do I potentially get in trouble with this? I don't know. I don't know how. But here's the point I'm getting to. Is Trump, okay, phone ahead, hey, Russians.
Right.
We're going to hit this airbase. Get your people out. All the Russians went, hey, Syrians, you guys better get on the trucks with us and get the hell out of here because there's some Tomahawks circling around, and they're about ready to drop them. So we need to get out of here by 0400. So they clear out the base. The Tomahawks come in, hit, don't even really do that much damage, okay? As a matter of fact, Assad launched planes from that exact airfield.
Less than 24 hours later.
Yeah. So is Trump flushing out the globalists in his administration, within his circles right now, by going along with all this stuff in the early stages? Because that first strike, to me, tells me he had no intentions of taking out Assad right away. Otherwise, he would have hit his palace. He would have hit infrastructure. He would have hit a lot of things, dude. So that's all I'm saying. I still am, maybe wishful thinking, but I'm thinking he's smoking out the friggin' rats right now, and
or his people getting smoked out. Bannon was one of the main proponents of that not necessarily isolationist, but not going around the world foreign policy. For him to get booted, and
Trump gave up. Trump gave up General Kelly. He's given up pawns to take big pieces, dude. That's at least in that spying situation. That's what he was doing. So I'm looking at the complete opposite side of the coin potentially here of what Trump might be thinking. That's all I'm saying.
I'm with it too. There's so much nuance to this, and you honestly have to keep all options open. Because this kind of curveballed everybody what happened in the last week as far as, because that's my thing. Like I've talked about, I'm pretty apolitical. I don't think we should be overdoing that shit and murdering people in the name of globalism and empire expansion, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm right. Definitely I'm with that. I just when you have a Rex Tillerson going out saying we want regime change, when that's the complete freaking opposite of what's been agreed upon. That's Syria is the flashpoint. That just opens the door to Russia and all these other countries, which again I don't think they're going to go there because I think everybody has such economic interdependence with each other. But I don't know. We'll see how China's going to react to the North Korea situation. What we're going to do with North Korea. North Korea is planning another nuclear test or a missile, aren't they, here pretty soon? And we've got ships moving into position there. Maybe are they planning on hitting those sites after the missiles launch? Are they planning on taking the missiles out before they launch? Well, it's tough
Kim
to
Jong
see, man.
Un. Kim Jong Un is always nearby watching launches, things like that. Are they planning on taking him out with it and just saying, well, we were just taking out the missiles? That's all.
Right. Well, I mean, this kind of gets into like stuff, kind of some of the crap I've been crunched on the last few days or the last couple of weeks. The thing in Syria, again, has nothing to do with terror. It has to do with energy pipelines and having Western-friendly countries in that area for the larger part.
And moving a central bank into Syria.
And that's another component, ladies and gentlemen. Like you had brought up before, Pat, Syria, Iran are one of the few countries without a central bank being
and
manipulated
ironically,
by
North Korea.
What's that?
And ironically, North Korea. And here's the thing. So this could be the big puzzle. All right. This is the big conspiracy. And people can laugh it off or whatever they want. But we've talked about this before also. China and Russia and Brazil are BRIC nations, right? Their own banking system is being set up. China moved to the gold standard, which freaked a lot of people out. The bankers started tripping out on that.
And trading their money, trading their oil with Russia in Chinese yuan. Like
right.
That's
so
huge.
Here's the thing. You piece that together with North Korea, Syria, and Iran not being part of the central banking scheme also, and jumping on board with those big countries, with those, maybe they're not considered. Look, I'll consider Russia and China a superpower, though. Okay, that's how I'm gonna put them in, because they are. So you think about that big puzzle and how that fits together. Are the global bankers willing to take this thing to a global war?
Well, they will.
To bring China and Russia and these other three little countries to their knees, because Iran is on that list of the 7 Middle Eastern countries to be taken out. Look, this is the perfect way to do it. Draw Russia into a conflict over Syria, right? Iran is going to come to their rescue. That's a perfect way to take out Iran. You take out Syria at the same time. North Korea is flirting with disaster here with nuclear tests. Take them out at the same time. Also draw China into that. I'm just saying that's the potential.
No. That is a perspective, and that is one kind of analysis of it. But I think a larger thing, like I said about Syria, there's larger shit going on with Syria geopolitically than having to do with terror, and that is what we've talked about on this show. That is not talked about in this expansion of basically an Asian Pacific market. This kind of Eurasian Asian Pacific market is what's really, really going on. And shit that they don't even talk about are things like China and India and those major trade deals that are going on. This one called the RCEP. It's called the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Now that has to do with Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar. Right. So this is all South Asia, Southeast Asia, and we've talked about before what's going on in the Spratly Islands, the arms embargo being lifted by Vietnam. Everybody, the globalist, everybody knows this is the next area. This Asian Pacific market is the next one to blow up. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, unfortunately for us, we aren't a part of that. And a lot of these different economic unions and these trade agreements, it's moving away from that. Almost like China and Russia trading their petrol in Chinese money. That's huge. And that's just some of these momentum shifts that are going on. Syria is a part of it, dude. China is almost like Germany before World War I, bro. They are so economically strong, even though, there's some tenuous agreements on that, but they're trying to put a rail line basically through Asia, ending up in like Eastern Europe. And I mean, from rail lines to economic unions to some of these countries, it's absolutely insane, man. It's absolutely insane. So it's like the shift is moving towards this Asian Pacific market, bro.
Aren't they talking about running through India and all kinds of stuff? What's going on?
Well, that's the thing. And again, man, we're going to see more terrorist attacks, not only in Western China, but we're going to see more terrorist attacks in Pakistan and India, because India really is standing in. Dude, India as an economic power in this area is huge. So they're not trying to really be anybody's bitch, especially China. But there's a huge deal between. There's a huge hindrance to make this rail line and this pipeline through this area, because India is not allowing any of their land to be used. So it's just interesting, this chess game that's going on between a lot of these, Southeast Asian countries, particularly China, and these trade deals and economics, dude. That's why when we talked to David Zadie, former Deputy Assistant Director of Counterintelligence for the FBI, I know it's a mouthful. Mutual assured destruction, I don't think will ever happen, because these countries are so interdependent, intertwined economically. There's no point to get into scorched earth. Then it's done for everybody.
Here's where the disconnect is. It all depends on the complete and utter control and greed of the global bankers, because we know they've financed every war. So here's the thing. They want a global currency. They want to be able to control it. They can't control China and the Soviets and the Iranian and Syrian and North Korean currencies without that one banking system that used to kind of control the world, right? So in my mind, it comes down to how fucking crazy these people are and how far they're willing to go. And I don't know. The history tells us they're willing to go all the way, dude, with this stuff. And that's the thing, that the whole mutual destruction thing, because we need each other for economic, for economic assistance and co-survival. Not necessarily what the bankers are thinking right now. The bankers are thinking complete and utter control.
Well, and as you said, they tend to fund both sides on almost every side. I mean, I think there's a huge, global banking contingent backing what I think they see as the next big boy on the block, which I think is China in this particular scenario. And like you said, man, they will fund both sides to kind of facilitate this. But I think it's very interesting. And like I said, and even Josh Howard said when they were talking about this very same scenario in Africa, Russia, United States, China going after natural resources in Africa, utilizing the same thing, terror, as a proxy force to go destabilize, to bring about the solution to the problem that they caused. That's what we're going to be seeing more in northern India and Pakistan, and it's all going to be under the guise of terror, but it's all going to be about problem, reaction, solution, getting our pipeline through, getting our economic agreement with your country through. You know what I'm saying? So it's always the grand chessboard, bro. And obviously I know that, but when I crunch numbers and information for episodes like this, it's just like, holy shit, man, because the globalists are pushing for war in Syria, and just everybody I talk to, just family, friends, etc., mainstream media influenced, are just ready to do it, man. Like, we got to stop Syria. He gassed his own people, he killed his own people, etc., etc. We got to stop Russia. I mean, it's just like we've talked about, people kind of not knowing about history and false flags, and how these institutions, be it global bankers, etc., will use false flags to fulfill a larger political agenda. People don't get that happens. Yes, they'll kill children. They'll kill thousands of people to, freak people out and like I said, provide the solution to the problem they created. It's always right. Chess.
Now, so we go back to Syria, the second chemical attack, right? For sure, Assad has had ISIS basically surrounded, on the run, kicking their ass with the Russians' assistance. So just from that standpoint alone, hitting anyone with a chemical attack makes no sense.
None.
Then the pilot that dropped the bombs, supposedly, the chemical weapons, that's what, from mainstream media side of things, ends up dead, dude.
Oh, really? I didn't hear that.
You know that? You don't know that?
No.
Yeah. So the pilot that did the supposed airstrike of chemical weapons ends up dead. So somebody's covering their tracks. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty 101. Wow, I didn't know that.
So then you've got a former ambassador in the UK saying on BBC, completely turning things around on BBC. They didn't expect him to say what he ended up saying. He goes, look, we don't know what caused it. We don't know if it was an airstrike that hit an ammunition depot that the terrorists had stored chemical weapons, which a lot of people are saying that's what it was. It didn't even have to be terrorists releasing them. It just had to be a bomb dropping on these chemical weapons in the area and spreading them. So,
of course, that fits the narrative of, got to take out Assad, regime change, got to take him out, 150,000 troops on the ground by June. It's like
there's absolutely no proof whatsoever that this was Assad.
Absolutely.
It's not like they have footage of it.
But I mean, no, they don't. But it's one of those things that we talk about. People set up normalcy biases in their brain. No, Chuck, what's his name? Don Lemon, he wouldn't lie to me. Sean Hannity, they wouldn't lie. I mean, it's just like, of course they would. Of course they would. And when you don't want to go figure out for yourself, you just, follow the narrative that's been presented to you, because there's no way it could be as diabolical as we say it is. You know what I mean? It's just easier to just, like we said, create as many shortcuts to thinking as possible, let people do your thinking for you, and then, this is what confounds my brain again, dude, as if they didn't do this with the Gulf of Tonkin, Vietnam, and however many millions of people died there, based off a lie. The whole Syria has just been decimated, 500,000 dead people, the freaking fleeing across the world, based off of complete horseshit.
Right. Well, now wait a minute. Let's go back to Don Lemon. I mean, come on, him on New Year's Eve. I mean, that guy had some really newsworthy quotes on New Year's Eve, didn't he?
I didn't pay it. I heard he was a little tipsy, but I didn't.
Oh, he was trashed. He got an earring on the air, trashed.
I mean, even leading up to the election, none of those guys should really have any credibility. But I mean, that's weird. Like I said, people, even in your personal life, you wouldn't go for the truth with somebody you know just a habitual liar to you. Why do we do that in larger global circumstances? We just it wouldn't be. It's crazy, dude, because so much is at stake. And I swear to God, when I heard the McMasters saying 150,000. Boots on the ground. It's just, I'm just thinking of dead kids, man. I'm thinking of dead kids for no reason other than, global hegemony by these assholes.
Yeah, a bunch of our dead 18-year-olds too, right?
Yeah, man. Just all of our, all of our, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles. You know what I mean? We know who goes and fights these wars. It's like, it's insane.
So 150,000 is about, from what I understand.
I don't know if we have that many, do we?
Well, it's like 1/3 of our active military, I believe. That's planning a global war, dude.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly. And that's, they know if they started in Syria, like I said, it's a flashpoint. And that's,
And it all makes sense why NATO is performing readiness drills on the border of Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was looking at, dude. Over in Ukraine, I mean, the last, I think it was last week, there's been a whole bunch of basically trained mercs from the Ukraine going into, I believe it was Belarus. Belarus and Russia have been holding joint exercises. And then, the whole bunch got pushed into Belarus within the last week or two, trying to foment some kind of coup in Belarus. Cause, like we've said many times, they're trying to encircle Russia, and NATO is going to continue doing their provocative thing in those, countries that surround Russia, of course.
Right.
Trying to, kudos to Putin, man. I mean, from all of his dead ambassadors to, I mean, the dude's kept his cool, right? I mean, he's playing his cards pretty close to the vest. After being fucked with quite a few times over the last few months.
No, he's impressive. He's a very bright guy. But, I mean, now let's think about where does it all happen? Does it, as we talked about before, does it happen to where an American fighter jet gets shot down by Russian anti-aircraft missiles? Does it happen on the border of Russia and with the Ukraine? Is it for sure going to happen there? Could it happen in North Korea when we hit North Korea with Tomahawks to take out their missile launchers? And China retaliates for that, dude. You know what I'm saying?
North Korea gives a lot of its coal to China, and they had about 20 million tons on its way to China, and China told them to turn around and take it back. I don't know if you heard that today, which meant it was a boon for Trump because the U.S. wound up exporting that coal to China. Interesting development.
Yeah, very interesting. Are the Chinese and Russians going to back down on this one? Because they see Trump as a guy that's totally serious, where Barack Hussein Obama was not.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting in the next several years as this plays out, man. I think there is obviously going to be a provocation going on with the EU and NATO with Russia, and I think China is going to initially have Russia's back at first, but I think there's going to be a switcheroo, man. I think there's going to be a flipping of the sides at some point, and I think China could possibly turn on Russia, because I mean, I just think Russia's kind of a paper tiger right now, and China is just on the move, man. It's becoming a behemoth. Like I'm saying, with these economic unions in the South Pacific and South Asia, it's pretty huge stuff going on. Like I said, the paradigm, if you will, as it always changes, the global paradigm of who's the top dog, etc. That's changing, man. That's changed big time.
So now with all of this stuff going on, you would think that a guy getting drug off a United flight, which does happen quite frequently, it's being blown up. I mean, there's a million memes out that are hilarious that have people just dying laughing. I mean, I had to comment on the whole situation with the guy getting drug off the United flight because he didn't want to give up his seat. I'm wondering, is this being played up as one of the distractions? I mean, it's got to be.
Well, I mean, it clearly has been. I mean, I didn't really know much about it till later this afternoon when I saw the video, and I still don't really know the full story on it. But it definitely took a lot of other shit out of the news. Kind of like, Russia, Donald Trump, confabbing with Russia kind of jumped out of the news once he bombed Syria. But then obviously we're now like, he gave Putin a heads up. He gave Assad a heads up. He's still in collusion.
So is it the tail wagging the dog or the dog wagging the tail on that one? Because, I saw the mainstream media messing with Trump and accusing him of working with the Russians as a way of stopping him from coming to the table with Russia and doing good things.
Absolutely.
And maybe fomenting a war with Russia potentially. The powers that be, the bankers, their little henchmen and their little information givers in mainstream media to dictate what was going to happen and how it was going to go down, and steering Trump into doing it. Is Trump playing them, though? I'm back to that. Is Trump playing them and acting like he's playing along with it?
Well, I think honestly, man, I think there's kind of a ruse on a lot of sides, man. I think Putin and Russia is more tied to the West than the U.S. I think people realize. I think, a lot of his policies and stuff he deals with China goes through Henry Kissinger and the Kissinger group. I mean, he has a lot of, Hillary Clinton, that whole foundation getting 20% of the uranium from the United States. I mean, there's still a lot of business dealings going on there. I think the distraction or the ruse is, the big bad bear, when I feel it's China, man. The real threat as far as, the next big dog is China from an economic standpoint. Because like I said, if you look at that Chinese, or not Chinese map, that South Pacific, South Asia map, it's in the trade agreements and alliances, like this RCEP, the one Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, that would cover 40% of the world's population, that particular trade deal. That's almost half, and the U.S. is not a part of it.
What's that, 3.5 billion, 4 billion people?
A lot, man. I mean, you're down in Indonesia. I mean, Asia, obviously the biggest continent on the planet, so it's like, it's just interesting, man, because like, I just get frustrated, especially when I see mainstream news and they just beat that freaking war drum, sending our kids off to die, when it is just so much deeper than that. It is a freaking chess game if people would see it from the larger perspective, opposed to just being triggered, in that whole, we talked about East-West battle of civilizations. People are just like, fuck it, we're the West, we're the best, my news says so, Putin's an asshole, et cetera, as opposed to having a nuanced conversation in worldview, because it is very nuanced. It just it's frustrating, dude, because we're going into another world war where nobody's going to benefit except for these assholes, these global bankers, whatever the hell you want to call them. And, what do we do about it?
Well, we're talking about it at least through different lenses, right? We're looking at it from different angles. We have at least the common sense to sit back and view it from different aspects, different viewpoints, taking it to the extreme.
Sometimes.
And then looking at it from Trump's angle, looking at it from the global bankers' angle, looking at it, if you're the Chinese, what are you doing? If you're Russia, if you're Putin, how are you playing this? Putin needs that pipeline to go through Syria, right? Yeah. Putin needs that pipeline, and the Saudis want their pipeline to go through. Yeah. Why wouldn't you broker a deal if you had any common sense and wanted to avoid a global war? Say, let's deal with Assad and say, look, dude, can we run both pipelines through and we share? Is that possible? I don't know.
Well, I mean, traditionally,
to greedy bastards that want to control everything.
Yeah, it's like he's either all or nothing. You know what I mean? It hasn't traditionally been that way. But I mean, yeah, it would be, ideally, it'd be nice if, we could all share the space as opposed to being so fucking, so damn greedy about it. But as we know who runs the thing, that's, they err on the side of greed and duplicitous horse shit, etc.
Now, we have breaking news, though.
Uh-oh.
That the Pentagon now has awarded the contract to United Airlines to forcibly remove Bashar al-Assad.
That's pretty good, dude. That's pretty good.
I'm just throwing that out there. But
I'm telling you, man, like I said, if we shift our focus over to the Asia Pacific region, I'm telling you, look out for terrorist attacks in northern India, Pakistan, just as a means of, problem reaction solution. And of course, there's always Africa still doing that same stuff, but these are the countries that are the news countries of the day. And we're talking, Spratly Islands once again, South China Sea. I mean, this is the next area. This is the next theater of operations, I believe.
So we'll know here shortly, I think, given the North Korean missile launch, their nuclear tests, all of that good stuff, and what's going on in Syria.
Speaking of North Korea, do we remember?
Wait, sorry, hold that thought.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. As far as Syria, the attacks, the chemical attacks, the second one, the same day that was going on, we had diplomats meeting in Brussels on the restructuring of Syria that exact same day when the chemical attack happened. So to me,
King Abdullah just met with Trump 2 days earlier, and supposedly that's where one of the pipelines, one of the rat lines of ISIS comes over that Syrian Jordanian border there too, which was interesting.
Right, but I'm just saying that kind of ironic that diplomats were meeting in Brussels on the restructuring of Syria after all this stuff goes down, and then the chemical weapons attack happens that same day.
Yeah, I hate this when I hear Rex Tillerson talk how he's talking. It's weird because President Trump doesn't even sound like he's in charge. So when I hear some of this stuff going down with his Secretary of State saying we need regime change, and then McMasters saying we need to get rid of ISIS simultaneously while getting rid of Assad, it's just these fuckers say this shit with a straight face, and it freaks me out because it's so sociopathic because they know they're lying, right? And they know what
I'm just thinking, is Trump really that stupid where he's sitting down in a room and these people are feeding him this false information and saying, yeah, we got to hit him, got to hit him. Donnie, we got to hit him, dude. We got to hit him. Got to go for him. We got to send ships to North Korea. We got to go. We got to do this.
Well, he's even on tape, whatever, like last year, like, no, you don't want to bomb Syria. Like, that just opens up this other can of worms, and then, you get rid of Assad and then put in what? Your boy Baghdadi or something? That's exactly what, that vacuum would get filled with some even worse shit than Assad. I'm not saying Assad's an angel, but, what's plan B if you get rid of Syria? I understand you'll get your pipeline and all that, but it's like, that would be you do not want Syria to be a failed state with all those different sects of Islam and linguistic ethnicity.
What's the same thing that's happening in, or that's happened in Iraq? What's the same thing that's happened in Yemen? The same thing that's happening in Syria. All the insurgents, all the terrorist organizations. Dude, we're back to the same shit. They're just destroying everything.
And we're falling for it again. Like, it was so absurd when Colin Powell's holding up fucking illustrations of mobile chemical units. And then, of course, we find out that was all horseshit. But he's holding up illustrations as a way to move us towards war. No pictures, no satellite images, no real shit. Pictures, illustrations. And it's just, they act like we haven't been lied to over and over again. I get it. It pulls your heartstrings when you see that shit. But come on, man. Have some level of critical thinking. It sucked to see those kids, but it's like, who did it? I'm asking that question, like, not legitimately. Who did it? Just because I'm seeing this, I'm not. And you say Assad did it, investigate, ladies and gentlemen, investigate. There's so much information out there to tell you it's not a civil war. It's fucking foreign terrorists coming in trying to topple a regime, topple a leader. Plain and simple.
Exactly. We can talk till we're blue in the face, dude. Are people really listening? Are they calling their senators and congressmen and saying, get out of Syria, knock it off?
And just at least recognize that you're being lied to and manipulated. I know there's a lot of ego that goes into like, well, I fucking know, and I'm not saying I even have all the answers, but it's tough, dude. It's tough the older we get to realize, like, man, I'm being lied to. And again, if this isn't true, what else isn't true? And there's a whole litany of things that we've been lied to, manipulated to about. But you have to at least admit that in the first place. Because after that, if you don't do that, then you and I are just filling the air with carbon dioxide because no one's paying attention. If you can't at least listen. Right. I'm not saying we're right about everything, but the things we are right about are pretty huge. Us being manipulated into a war again is huge. I know the drumbeat of war sounds cool when you think you're on the winning side, but let that shit come to your doorstep. Let that be your kid gasping for air, etc., washing up on a beach somewhere. Give me a fucking break, man.
Could it potentially come to us?
I think it can. Let some EMP come floating over here and fry our grid. Damn straight it can.
That's when you better pray that we have a really nice winter.
Exactly. There's going
to be a lot of freezing people, dude.
Man, so my final parting notes or statements are, seriously, gentlemen, look for terrorist attacks in certain parts of Asia, i.e., Western China, the Xinjiang region, northern India, and Pakistan, because this is where the chessboard, the chess game is playing all over the place, but as it relates to this trade stuff, China trying to expand their rail system through Asia, et cetera, keep your eye on that region.
Right, and at the same time, we have a bill. Let's talk domestic stuff here for a second, bud.
Sure.
Which is very interesting. We have a House lawmaker from the GOP who has introduced a bill, and I believe Mr. Massie, Thomas Massie from Kentucky. I met him when I was doing a speech for Rand Paul when he was running for president. And Massie's an amazing dude. He and his wife both graduated. I'm going to go off into a tangent here for a second.
Sure.
Massie and his wife both graduated from MIT. They're both geniuses, right? Well, they've lived off the grid for like 15 years and are completely self-sufficient. Amazing individual. This guy is a blast to talk to. I loved it. He was talking about how to set up your house, how to set up your land, all this stuff, explaining stuff to me. And I thought, this guy has his shit together, right? And he talks about how he gets Wi-Fi and all kinds of stuff. Really technical stuff. But anyway, he introduced a bill, not just a week ago or something, to eliminate the Department of Education by December 31st, 2018. And my speculation about DeVos being brought in was she was there to wind down the Department of Education. And given that Massie is now introducing this bill, I think I'm right. And I've hated the Department of Education as long as I can remember. Since when should bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. control my kids' education?
Right.
How do they know what my kids should be learning here and make that a cookie-cutter system for the kids in Louisiana and state of Washington and Nebraska? It should be up to the states and the communities to educate their children, right?
I agree.
To control that, to control those tax dollars. Those tax dollars should never leave the state, and they should be used within the state for the kids within that state, within those communities, all of that good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that way we don't run into the Common Core situation that we've had for the past several years. Not several years. My kids in elementary were bringing home homework in math that made 0 sense. Absolutely 0 sense. It was designed to confuse children and make them run to their teachers because the way they were doing the math, none of the parents knew how to do it. I just go, 2 plus 2 is gray. That's how they do it. Right? That's literally how it was. It's the most pathetic shit I've ever seen in my life. Right? So anyway, dude, my wife's a doctor of chiropractic. She learned how to become a doctor in a language she didn't even speak when she got here, right? So she's intelligent. She'd look at these math problems and go, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe that they're doing this. She would send notes back to the teacher and go, you're a fucking idiot if you're trying to teach this to my kid.
What
right?
in the hell?
So anyway, back to Massie's bill. I think that this is a great thing. I think that Americans are totally for this. That it's a waste of think of all the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. within the Department of Education that need to be paid, the waste, the spending that just, look what was just found in HUD by Dr. Ben Carson. Almost, what was it, over $500 billion of money that is missing.
Wow.
$500 billion.
Right.
But Ben Carson, he was a neurosurgeon and had no experience and knew nothing about how to run HUD, the human, urban development.
Yeah.
So you've got a guy who was a surgeon who put people on it, and they did an audit and found $500 billion.
That's insane.
Completely missing, dude. So.
That's what I was just talking to my dad about the EPA, and it's almost the same thing. Of course, there's environmental issues that need to be addressed, but the level of bloat and waste that's in some of those budgets is absolutely insane. And when you do audits like that, you come up, like a Donald Rumsfeld before 9/11, the day before 9/11, saying that the Pentagon's missing 2.4 or 4.2 trillion dollars in just lost dough. I'm like, that's more than just an oversight, dude. That's some nation's GDP. It's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, billions upon billions of dollars. So
Trillions,
anyway,
yeah. Well, not to mention, I meant to say a little bit ago, Donald Rumsfeld, if we remember as it relates to North Korea, he was on the board of the Swiss-based tech company ABB that wound up giving North Korea a $200 million deal to sell them nuclear reactors. And that was in early 2000 before he became the Secretary of Defense. So we love arming our enemies with all kinds of shit, if not arms, nuclear weapons, nuclear reactors, and then bitch to them for having nuclear reactors.
Just as Hillary Clinton was paid a massive amount of money before she was head of the State Department, when Bill was the president, Hillary Clinton was paid millions to do a speech for a Chinese firm, and then Bill agreed and signed off on paperwork that gave the Chinese satellite technology that we had, and now they've got killer satellites that are shooting other satellites down. They shot one of their satellites down last year.
Yeah.
So that's the corruption across the board, Republican, Democrat.
Across the board. No, absolutely, baby. Absolutely.
Right. So any of you Democrats or Republicans out there getting mad that we're picking on one side or the other, we aren't. We're picking on everybody.
We are equal opportunity roasters, my friend. Equal opportunity roasters, because, like I said,
Exactly.
It's two sides of the same coin, quite frankly.
So I think we'll have to wait and see what what's he got up his sleeve. Is he playing the globalists? Is he flushing more cockroaches out, letting them give him false information, and then going to be relieving people? We'll see how that works out. Is he going to have his son-in-law fucking off because he's a piece of shit?
Well, and that's what's so weird. Like we talked about before he got elected, like pre-Kennedy style, he's surrounded by old school bureaucrats and globalists. I don't know. It's so crazy. The reports and the videos I'm seeing, the things I'm hearing about Kushner, like he's playing Trump supposedly, unless Trump was on the inside the whole time and we're all been played by Trump. But supposedly, the getting rid of Bannon, the getting rid of, what's her name, the old deputy, K.T. McFarland, all of these people who were on Trump's page as far as, the nationalist side, not starting shit in foreign wars, etc. They're weeding those people out. And Jared Kushner is more pushing towards the, Rex Tillerson, etc., regime change, extend the globalist agenda. So I'll be very anxious to see how this plays out, because this last couple of weeks have been crazy.
I just hope Trump's giving up pawns. There's a massive game going on right now, and I love trying to keep up with it, dude. I love trying to
I do too, but in this last few weeks, it's literally gotten so convoluted with the mis and disinformation on the mainstream, with the whole, Russia collusion, Susan Rice, we were just inundated with so much information.
The media has nothing now, do they? The media has nothing on Trump as far as the Russians.
Well, isn't that funny too? I was going to say how that went away. The whole Russian collusion went away once he decided to bomb Syria / Russia. It's like,
right.
He didn't collude, or, did he still collude, or what? Is that investigation still going on?
Right. No, it's fucking hilarious, dude. The distractions are incredible. And so I'm just trying to see through the fog.
True.
Pay attention. Keep the eye on the prize, Jeffrey. Let's focus on the big game. It comes down to globalists versus nationalists. Is Trump swayed to the other side? Is he biting on the false information, or is he playing with them? That's what I want to know.
Hey, because it is a chess game, and it's good that we have shows like this and gentlemen like us who stay up on it. Your boy Sean Gannon hit me up, and he's like, tell us what the hell's going on this last week or so. I'm like, I'm doing my best, man, because there's so much nuance to it. And again, if you're listening to CNN or any of those things to get your global worldview, just forget about it, man. Just really forget about it. You might as well be talking about waiting for Santa to come down the chimney and give him cookies and ice cream or whatever, because that's kind of the world you're living in, quite frankly. Not that we have all the answers, but there's definitely more going on than what's being presented to us. Things are not at all as it seems.
Good old Matt Lauer's feeding us, bud.
Or Brian Williams,
oh, dude, it's nuts. It's nuts. So anyway, it's now that we've at least put out the different strategies, the potential outcomes, what's really going on. Nobody's sure. Nobody can be sure right now of what's truly going on, how Trump, whether he's playing these guys or not. It's a wait and see game now, but at least the people that are listening to this can say, okay, I'm with you on this. Okay, I get it.
Right.
Is he on board with the globalists? Is he not on board with the globalists? Is he playing? What's he got up his sleeve? Where's this going? So people can at least go, all right, we're on the same page.
Well, and we can also find out and discern, if he is legit, then he needs to start cleaning house immediately, because if he's just going to allow himself to be surrounded by globalists and allow more of these kind of air attacks, that's just going to slowly but surely push us into a larger war. So he's got to nip the shit.
Not necessarily. Think about it.
If we keep hitting more strategic targets in Syria, I can only imagine, unless they have an agreement.
Is he taking a page, or at least lessons from JFK's presidency and how JFK ended up? Is he playing along just enough to make them wonder if he's on the same page?
Right.
Right.
Well, and I was waiting to see if these airstrikes were limited.
Stay alive.
Right. Stay alive is all.
Well, if he stays alive and he gets to his second term, when he can truly give GNF, team give no fucks, pardon my French.
That's right.
That's when he can do. I mean, look at what he's done in 100 days, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he got a Supreme Court justice in that sways the court back the other way. That alone is historic. Okay, in my mind, that makes his first term successful, as long as we don't end up in a global war, of course.
Right.
But I think that alone, but all the other stuff that's going on when you've got politicians getting the balls to, like Massie, Thomas Massie, bringing up a bill on the floor that he wants to abolish the Department of Education, things like that. Things are starting to happen. So I've got faith. I'm always going to be the optimist on this.
Well, yeah, try to be. And I have my eye. I mean, I probably should pay more attention to domestic stuff. But like I said, my eye is so on the foreign, large global picture, because like a world war is just something none of us need. And knowing these people the way we know them, they have no compunction about stacking bodies to fulfill an agenda. And that's, none of us need that. And yeah, we got to stay focused.
All right, buddy. Well, I think that we've covered quite a bit.
We did cover quite a bit. Sorry if I was a little bit more amped up. A little bit more energy and amped up. I had a lot of information in my brain, and this shit obviously pisses me off. So if I came off as a little bit more energetic today, I apologize. But
I love it. You should drink Red Bull.
We definitely did get this out there, because like the mainstream media's narrative is just, there's a lot of people buying it, man. A lot of people buying it. It just is crazy. I mean, and they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere, and their message is everywhere. So it's really hard to combat it. But, you and I, we're going to do what we can. And everybody else listening to this, hopefully, some of this resonates with you, and you can spread the word, share it, each one teach one, because we need it, dude. We need it. We're at a very crucial point in history.
For the people out there that are doubting us at all, how was it the news broke of a chemical attack in Syria at the same time the news broke that Assad did it?
Right. Simultaneously.
How do you do that?
Well, the same way, Lee Harvey Oswald supposedly shot Kennedy, and his whole bio was in the paper just a matter of, an hour or two later. And this is 1963. It's not the information age back then. So yeah, the books were cooked then. It was, as I continue to read my book Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, the former Roman emperor, nothing is new under the sun, man. These global countries or whatever, they've all done the same thing. They're all trying to protect their own empire, trying to extend their empire, snatch natural resources, et cetera, but now they have so much of a powerful tool called the media, and this time it's a proxy force known as terrorism. Before it was communism, et cetera. So, and they're utilizing it quite strategically and quite wickedly geniusly, if that's a term, but we must combat it with real information, ladies and gentlemen.
None of this is happening by coincidence. It's all orchestrated, folks. Yes. Please pull your head out of your ass if it's there.
Absolutely.
And truly look around and say, and understand that none of this is happening by accident. It's all been planned. Assad didn't bomb his own people with chemical weapons.
Neither time.
Neither reason to do that.
Right.
Okay.
And these fuckers who we say arm and, control these proxy forces called, whatever you want to call them today, Al Nusra, they did it. Okay? So we need to seriously start getting serious about holding them accountable, as opposed to just beating the drumbeat for war each time they decide to play us like a fucking harp. I mean, God, it's been going on for so long. When are we going to get hip to it, man? They lie to you. Period. Not only do they lie and kill our kids and get us into war. They have no compunction about doing it again. So let's not allow them to do it, because this will definitely spark and spiral into something much larger than just Syria.
Let's pray that Trump has his card, his ace up his sleeve, playing with these people, dude.
We'll see. He's definitely in treacherous waters. All right, my man. I'm about all I have for the day. I don't know if you got any more.
I love it. I'm good. Folks, please pay attention, man.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Share this episode and every other episode. Go to www.theconspiracyfarm.com. You can donate and support the operation. And thank you so much.
Please donate. The Starving Newsbreaker Foundation.
Yeah, we got big plans, man. We have big plans. So let's not minimize what we got going on here. We have some pretty big shit lined up. So we could use all the help. Any and all is appreciated. But thank you again, man, for another cool episode. That was pretty awesome.
Yep.
All right, folks.
I love it. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the people listening, and hi to everybody around the globe. Over 100 countries listening now. So
over 100 countries. That is no shit, ladies and gentlemen. Over 100 countries. So thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. There will be more. Peace and love.